Ok, aspettiamo un altro po' che si colleghino tutti e poi cominciamo.
Ok, ci siamo.
Ciao.
Good morning.
Morning. Ciao.
Giano, scusa, l'ordine non ho sentito prima, è cambiato? È lo stesso?
Sì, è cambiato. Abbiamo prima il contributo di Marco e poi seguiamo l'ordine naturale del programma.
Va bene. Grazie.
Okay. Buongiorno, ciao Giorgia. Ancora un minuto e possiamo cominciare. Ciao Marco.
Hi.
Good morning. Ok. We are ready. Can we start with this session? I'm asking to the technical assistant if we can start the session. Okay, we are waiting for the streaming. If the streaming is ready, we can start these sessions. Ciao Diana, good morning.
Alex, good morning.
Okay, I think we can start. Just checking if the streaming is ready. Anyway, we can start the presentation. Okay, good morning everybody, and welcome to the first edition of the workshop MITA, Multidimensional Evolutionary Evaluation for Transformative Approaches. And I'm delighted to be here with you, and I want to thank you, all the authors, for their contribution, first of all. And I'm just advise you that there is a little switch in the program for different opportunity reasons, and we have as first presentation the third presentation in the program by Marco Ederle, me, and Stefano Puntò. And then we follow the natural order of the program with the other contribution. So these workshops try to integrate different disciplines and cross-cutting issues that are linked to evaluation framework. Evaluation that can be considered as a framework for integrate social, environmental, cultural, and multidimensional issues that affect urban transformation. And we try to make a debate about the opportunity to boost evaluation framework for the urban challenges that cities are dealing with in this difficult periods. So I asked to the author, to the presenters, to take at most 12 minutes by each presentation in order to have a short Q&A questions and question and answer session after the presentation in order to conclude in time this session at 12 o'clock. So we can start with the first contribution that is titled Contextualizing Indicator for SDGs 11, the GLOSS approach to impact assessment of local plans, by Marco Ederle, me, and Stefano Puntò. Just before leaving the floor to Marco, that will present this contribution. This contribution is part of the project of relevant national interest referred to as GLOSSA, the Local Knowledge System for Sustainability Assessment to Europe project. And we try to produce some spatial indicators to evaluate the impact of multidimensional impact of in the city of Bacoli. This framework and the production of these indicators will be useful to measure these impacts in quantitative terms and implementing this impact into the software that is at the basis of the research project that was developed to identify which are the most relevant impacts that planning program and project has having on the on urban environment and neighborhood levels. So I can give the floor to Marco for his presentation. You can share your screen.
Can you see the presentation? Good morning.
Good morning, Marco. Yes, we see the presentation. You can start your speech.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me today. I'm Marco Ederle, a next to graduating student, and this work is the result of my traineeship with Professor Giuliano Poli and with Stefano Puntò. As the professor anticipated, this contribution is part of the National Interest Project GLOSSA, the Local Knowledge System for Sustainability Assessment, funded in 2022 by the Italian Ministry of Education and coordinated by the Politecnico di Torino in collaboration with the University of Naples Federico II and the University of Cagliari. The main goal of GLOSSA is to create a knowledge system based on SDG 11 indicators to support public administrations in making informed decisions, from monitoring urban areas to selecting sustainable transformation projects and evaluating plans and policies. The core outcome of the project is the IB tool, Indicators-Based Tool, a decision support system designed to integrate sustainability assessment tools both at the neighborhood and building level into multi-criteria decision-making processes. This helps public administrations during key stages of project evaluation and territorial monitoring. The 2030 agenda and specifically the objective 11 stresses the importance of making cities and human settlements more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Neighborhood sustainability assessment tools are playing an increasingly important role as tools for assessing and monitoring sustainability. They allow for a structured evaluation of various dimensions, from environmental performance to social inclusion, both before and after an intervention. NSATs work as multi-criteria methodologies that combine qualitative and quantitative indicators, making it possible to measure and compare the sustainability levels of different neighborhoods. When used with GIS analysis, they offer valuable support to decision makers in assessing the impact of urban policies and design strategies at a local scale. This research addresses three main aspects: the need to contextualize sustainability indicators drawn from literature within real urban areas, the definition of an operational workflow to measure proxy variables using GIS, and the future development of a spatial decision support system through a structured decision-making process. The case study is the city of Bacoli. It is part of the metropolitan city of Naples, located to the west of Naples. It is part of the geological complex of the Campi Flegrei, and it's characterized by a volcanic field which has been active for more than 80,000 years. According to the census data provided by the Italian National Statistics Institute, the city is inhabited by more than 25,000 people, distributed on a surface of almost 13 square kilometers, subdivided into 10 neighborhoods. The city of Bacoli poses as the ideal case study, given the city development plan that has been approved in 2020 and is being applied via multiple actions, allowing the monitoring of the impacts of these actions. The methodological process was addressed to lay the foundations of a SDSS based upon the three decision-making phases which Simon has identified as intelligence, design, and choice. As shown in the figure in the slide, the proposed methodological framework has focused on the intelligence phase, in which the problem to be faced was structured to identify valued components and linked impact indicators for the case study of Bacoli. The design phase, instead, was oriented to data gathering and selection in order to build spatial indicators contextualized to the focus area. Lastly, the choice phase, whether not discussed in this contribution, relates to future developments of the SDSS for developing an impact assessment of project portfolios using GIS and MCDA scenarios maps. We will now briefly explore the two main phases of the methodological workflow, intelligence and design. The intelligence phase was divided into three main steps, the results of which are shown in the graph in the slide. Firstly, the first phase was the analysis of all the plan actions provided by local authorities and their classification into four portfolios. As you can see in the images, the four portfolios are environmental and cultural redevelopment and enhancement intervention, restoration and safety interventions for the historical and infrastructure heritage, infrastructure interventions for mobility and road network, and creation and enhancement of sports and urban areas. Secondly, the clustering of indicator categories derived from glossa into 6 groups, each associated to a valid components. This as well can be seen in the image, and the 6 value components identified were housing, infrastructure and mobility, and culture and heritage, risk, and lastly, the identification of existing relationships among indicators and plan actions. As you can see in the figure, out of the 4 portfolios of actions identified, the one that can be monitored by the greatest number of indicators is infrastructure interventions for mobility and road networks. This is the reason why, as we will see later on, the 3 indicators which have been selected for further developing are all relating to these portfolios of actions. The design phase, instead, was subdivided into 3 main steps. The first one is data gathering, in which data regarding the indicators was structured in a database to be further analyzed. The research of data ranged from institutional data to crowdsourced data. The research was based on the calculation methods of the indicators, which were found consulting the initial sources stored within the IB tool. Data selection, instead, in the data selection setting, instead, data regarding the 3 main proxy indicators was filtered and refined in order to produce the impact assessment maps. The phase of data processing, so the processing of the data through GIS in order to specialize it and obtain the values of the said proxy indicators. All of the data collected and selected has then been processed with the use of GIS in order to obtain KPIs related to the actions planned. Three main processing tools were used based on the extension of the data and the indicator needed to be calculated: geoprocessing tools, raster analysis tools, and network analysis tool. The three main indicators which have been calculated in the instance of this paper are bicycle mobility, maximum parking capacity, and accessibility to railway services. We will now explore these three indicators briefly. The first one, bicycle mobility, highlights the length of bike lanes available in the city of Bacoli. This indicator was derived from the PINQA 2022 NSAT, in which it was defined as the expansion or a new construction of cycle paths, expressed in kilometers. In the current state, no bike lanes are present in the territory of Bacoli. Thus, the indicator is expected to grow up to 4.5 kilometers. We can see in the ex ante and ex post maps showed on the slides that informal bike paths were highlighted. This was done because these paths are generally followed by cycle tourists. In this perspective, the urban development plan has integrated these paths into the city design project, in which they were conceived as tourist paths crossing localities like Lake Miseno and Fusaro. To obtain this indicator, geoprocessing tools for data analysis were utilized for deriving the segment length of the bike lanes. Raster analysis was used in order to overlap the documents from the urban development plan and to calculate the dimensions of said cycle paths. The second proxy indicator that was calculated is the maximum parking capacity. This indicator provides a normalized index of the parking availability value related to sites of each census tract. The source for this indicator is the BREEAM 2022 technical manual, in which this indicator is produced with a scenario measure unit, relating the parking number to the number of users of the buildings. As shown in the image, it is possible to notice a significant increase in parking spaces availability from the expected state post-actions. To obtain this indicator, raster analysis was used to overlap the areas of future parking expected by the urban development plan. Consequently, each attribute table of each census tract of the city of Bacoli has been remodeled in order to gather information of the total square meters of parking falling within each section. This value has then been divided by the area of each section in order to obtain a normalized index of square meters of parking area over square meters of census tract. Lastly, the last indicator calculated in instance of this paper is the accessibility to railway services indicator. This provides a normalized index related to the availability of train station within 30, 20, and 10 minutes from the centroids of each tract section. The source for this indicator is the 2019 ISTAT report. The changes related to the project expected are significant, as the current state, especially in the southern side of the city of Bacoli, presents a value of 0. This indicates a serious inaccessibility to the railway services. To obtain this indicator, several steps were needed. First, service areas were constructed starting from existing stations and project stations, with timings of 10, 20, and 30 minutes at walking speed, considered to be 4 kilometers per hour. Subsequently, the attribute table of the 2021 census tract was updated to contain the information regarding the number of stations reachable at each time interval considered. These values were then weighed and summed, allowing the visualization of the accessibility to railway services in the city of Bacoli. The proposed methodology carries several potentialities. Firstly, the reduction of the gap between the targets of SDG 11 and the local scale. Furthermore, the visualization of the impacts of the actions planned by public administration. Finally, the potentiality for further development of SDSS based on an MCDA tool. Despite the robustness of the approach, some limitations emerged during its application. Firstly, the availability and quality of data, especially at the local scale, pose challenges for the calculation of certain indicators. Moreover, while proxy indicators offer a pragmatic solution where direct measurement is difficult, they inevitably introduce a level of approximation that should be considered critically when interpreting results. Additionally, of spatial temporal data to monitor changes over time, thereby limiting dynamic assessments. Looking ahead, further developments should focus on the full implementation of the choice phase through MCDA scenario mapping, allowing for the simulation of different planning alternatives and their relative impacts. Future work should also involve expanding the range of indicators to better capture social and cultural dimension. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco, and especially for being in time, and perfect time. And I was wondering if are there any questions from the public, considerations, suggestions, or anything. Also from the room, if are there anyone in presence? Oh, there is a question by Francesco. Please, Francesco.
Thank you, Marco, for the very interesting presentation. I'm into the project Glossa, so I know the rationale behind it. I've got a question concerning the parking areas. Did you take into account the parking slots in the along the streets, or were just big parking areas?
Thank you for the question. So the main issues with calculating this indicator was the lack of availability of data. In fact, most of specialized data. The data relating to the parkings is part of the urban development plan of the city of Bacoli. So it relates to the actions that the city of Bacoli has planned, and it indicates not the parking on the streets, but parking areas. So larger parking areas in the area of the city of Bacoli.
Okay, are there other questions or comments? Okay. So, thank you very much, Marco, and we can switch to the next presentations with the natural order of the program from now. So we have the second contribution of today, that is exploring spatial distribution and intersection towards SDG 11, targets at the neighborhood level and experimental analysis. And the contribution is by Francesco Piras and Valeria Sariu. I can leave the floor to Francesco and Valeria for their speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Giuliano. I try to share my presentation, our presentation. And good morning, everyone. And I'm pleased to present this research with my colleague, Francesco Piras. We are a researcher at the University of Cagliari. Okay. Do you see our presentation?
Not yet.
We are at university, and so I hope that. Okay. Okay. No.
Okay. We can see your screen, Valeria. Thank you.
Okay. But is fixed.
Yes. Sorry, Valeria, could you zoom out the screen? Make a full screen presentation? Anyway, if it's a problem, you can proceed as you want.
Sì, però non si muove. Ok. No. Ivan, puoi intervenire?
It doesn't work.
C'è un problema tecnico, Giuliano, stiamo provando a capire come fare con la...
As usual, don't worry.
Valeria, se vuoi condivido io la presentazione. Facciamo lo switch.
Potrebbe essere buono.
Aspetta.
Forse è
Abbiamo
meglio.
l'ultimo tentativo.
Many technical problems in this conference.
Vabbè, la manda Francesco, dai. Non fa.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, Francesco.
Thank you, Francesco.
Non la vediamo.
Non la vedete? Nella stanza non si vede al momento. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, tell me when
You hear
you
me?
want to change the slide and
No.
go to the next slide.
Now, what is it on?
I have turned them there.
Non si muove, Ivan.
You have to turn the main microphone on the other computer.
This is...
Questo computer.
No, aspetta, l'ha spento. Ok.
Possiamo andare?
Do you hear me? Ok. Maybe. Okay. Francesco, can you share?
Yes, of course.
Okay, fantastic. And so this research, the next one, Francesco.
Can you see the next one?
Yes, Francesco,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
In the room, I don't see the slide, but it's possible to resolve this problem at the moment. And so this research were organized in this presentation were organized in 5 parts. First, the background. We framed this research within the territorialization process of the 2030 agenda. That is considered as a key approach to achieve the sustainable development goal, with particular attention for the goal 11, cities, communities, and cities sustainable. And the aim of the research is to develop a tool that support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 11 at the neighborhood scale. That is a scale particularly important to local implementing sustainability through action, urban transformation, ordinary urban transformation, and also urban planning and other process related to the territory. The methodology that we present is based on a multi-criteria evaluation framework that combine spatial analysis, participatory methods, and SDGs-related indicator to assess how urban action can contribute to SDG 11 target achievement. We also present an application of this methodology with the neighborhoods of the city of Cagliari, which differ from many characteristics, such as environmental, social, and economic characteristics. The next one. And only 5 years remain until the end of the 2030, and so most goals remain we don't see the presentation. One moment, please.
Okay. Nice. What?
Please fix this laptop because of the problems that when you apply this.
Ah, è questo allora il problema, non questo. Scusate. Allora loro possono proseguire. Io tengo continuo.
Ok. Francesco, I continue? Okay.
Okay.
Io non lavoro il mio computer, però va bene. Ok, the next one, please.
This one?
Okay. No?
This is
Previous?
only view only.
Okay, the previous? Okay, so, thank you, Damian. And 5 years remain to the 2030 agenda, but most of goals remain unachieved. And so there are many reasons behind this gap, but they must further investigated to understand the direction for the next global agenda. And one of the next one, please, Francesco. One of the key for the achievement of the SDGs is emerged in the difficulty to territorialize and operationalize the SDGs at the local level. And as highlighted by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, at last the most of targets will not be achieved without the active engagement of subnational government. So transforming global goal into local action are a key also for improve the engagement of local administration in 2030 agenda. The next one. And one of the main goal, the most important goal regarding the urban transformation are the SDGs 11, and that are defined by in the context of the decade of action, one of the best, the most important goal to accelerate the growth and the advancing to achieve the articulated in 10 targets and attention on different themes, sparkling for housing, transportation, public spaces, green areas, and also participation, climate adaptation, and different processes that are important for urban transformation. And the next one, these indicators are defined and are define the global scale, but require a specific definition for a specific local context. And so one important operation is the disaggregation of this indicator in for example, local income group, sex, race, in different specifically characteristics that are useful to better define the question that we can put in not in the projects. So in another one, the next one, please, Francesco. Among the recommended disaggregation, there are the scale of the assessment, and the neighborhood is the level that are recognized by as the most appropriate level for understanding and addressing local urban dynamics. And so, the next one.
Can you see it?
I lost. Okay. There are many tools that highlight the potential correlation between indicators at the neighbor scale with SDGs, but there are very limited tools that are mainly used for specifically project or urban areas, and so they require particular process and cost to make it operational. And to advance in this research area, we propose the presentation of a tool that we have developed to assess SDG 11 at urban area at the scale of the neighborhood. And the most important characteristic of this tool is that allow us to verify and evaluate the synergies and trade-off between different targets. And we present this experimental analysis and the application to a case study in Cagliari by Francesco.
Okay, thank you, Valeria. So to reach the object of the study, we applied a methodology that involved different steps, from the identification and selection of different indicators to their aggregation to their comparisons in terms of SDG 11 targets, both at the spatial and spatial level. In the first step, we identified for each SDG 11 target from different national and international protocols and from literature review the most appropriate indicators. I won't stop on each indicator, but you can see from this slide that for each target there are different indicators that pertain that target. Then, because each indicator was expressed in a different unit of measure, to compute an aggregate index for each SDG 11 target, first of all, we standardized each indicator to a scale from 0 to 1, And then we computed the arithmetic mean of all standardized indicators associated with the specific SDG 11 target. So we were able to have for each neighborhood a specific index for a specific SDG 11 target. But this was not enough, because it is interesting to observe the spatial correlations among the different neighborhoods of a city, and study as well the correlation between the different SDG 11 targets to verify the presence of synergies or trade-offs. And to do this, first of all, we investigate the presence of spatial clusters through the computation of global Moran's index and the local Moran's index, while to compute the correlation among different SDG 11 targets, we computed Spearman's correlation coefficients. And we assumed that for coefficient greater than 0.5, there was a synergy between two SDG targets. In other words, when an SDG target increases, another SDG target increases as well. While we assumed that for values of the Spearman's coefficient lower than 0.5, there was a trade-off. So, in other words, when an SDG target decreases, another SDG target increases. So, to investigate the potential of our methodology and our tool, we applied it to the city of Cagliari, which is the main city in Sardinia. Cagliari has got 31 different neighborhoods, which will be the unit of our analysis, and each neighborhood has got different urbanistic and transportation and environmental characteristics. So to compute each of the indicators I've shown you earlier, we employed different data sources. Some data were gathered from national, regional, and municipal administrations' open data. Other open data were gathered from private companies such as OpenStreetMap and Google Map, while other data were manually digitalized. So in terms of results, we can observe that this kind of methodology allowed us to show for each neighborhood of the city of Cagliari its value of the SDG 11 target, and so that it is possible in this way to compare the performance of each neighborhood and identify which neighborhood has some problems related to a specific SDG. I won't spend too much time on these maps because it is more interesting to make a step forward and analyze the spatial correlation among the different neighborhoods by computing the two Moran's index. From the computation of the global Moran index, we can observe that there is a spatial correlation for almost all the SDG 11 targets, except for 11.3, 11.6, and 11.7. But the global Moran index provides us only an overall indication of the spatial correlations. So to overcome this kind of problem, we computed the local Moran index to identify the spatial clusters. And so we could observe that in some cases there were high clusters. So clusters of neighborhood where all the values of the specific SDG 11 targets were high. In other case, there were low clusters where there was all the clusters belonging to all the neighborhoods belonging to that cluster have low values of the SDG 11 targets. And in other case, there was some outliers. So there's low clusters and high clusters. So clusters where one neighborhood has low value and the other neighborhoods has high values. The third type of analysis concerns the correlation analysis, and we observed that there was only correlations between the SDG 11.5, 11.4, and 11.6, while there were no correlations among all the other SDG in 11 targets. So in conclusions, we can, and from a policy standpoint, it is important, we believe, to apply this kind of methodology to compute at which point we are enriching the different SDG targets, and in our case, the different SDG 11 targets. Our approach is very easy to implement, and we hope that in the future, other practitioners or researchers would apply this kind of analysis to try to truly understand which are the relation between the different SDG targets at the neighborhood level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Francesco and Valeria, for their interesting and inspiring presentation. I want just to ask if are there any questions from the general public. Please, Giorgia.
Okay, hello. Thank you for your presentation, Valeria, Francesco. Mine is just a curiosity. What is the source for SDGs data for the neighborhoods?
Oh, yes. Can I show again the presentation?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
No, so.
Bueno, vale, así ahora sí.
Okay. So, yes. So thank you for your question. So each SDG 11 target was composed by different indicators. So there was not a data source that provide us with the value of the SDG target in total, but different indicators concurred to provide the value of the SDG 11 target. And concerning the data source that allowed us to compute the different values of the different indicators, we employed these ones. So most of the data were open data because, for example, ISTAT provided data on population and buildings, while the region of Sardinia and the municipality of Cagliari provide open data on transportation infrastructure or environmental infrastructure such as parks. Other data were collected from Google Maps and OpenStreetMaps, and in particular, we employed these two kinds of services to compute the different the level of quality of the public transport infrastructure, while other data were manually digitalized. For example, all the data concerning the bicycle paths, because this data was not complete on Google Maps and OpenStreetMaps, so we had to manually digitalize it.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a great job and also an important job to construct also the indicators. So it wasn't so clear.
Thank you.
Other questions? By Laura, I see the hands on.
Good morning.
Laura.
Thank you for the presentation. I want just to ask, maybe if you imagine to combine the qualitative data into this type of analysis, and maybe how?
Okay. Yes, thank you. That's a really interesting question, because in our case, we relied only on quantitative data, and we are aware that this kind of approach is not it should not be employed alone, because it is important to combine the quantitative data with the qualitative data. For example, the opinions of stakeholders and practitioners and policymakers, especially when selecting the different indicators concurring to the value of an SDG target, because the identification of these indicators is really important and can modify the value of the total SDG 11 target, and so modify the results of the analysis. So in our case, we relied on our experience in selecting the different indicators, but we are working on to involve policymakers to make them decide which kind of indicators are important to them and should be included for the computation of each SDG target. I don't know if this answered the question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there other questions? Okay. Just a curiosity for me about the main issues when you have to scaling down data, when we don't have official repository data, and we have to produce the data from scratch, basically. How is challenging for you compute this data and identify proxy indicators, and which is the role of GIS, spatial analysis, in helping to produce these metrics, alternative metrics, because we are not very able to have official repository in which take the data and the path into a system.
Thank you for your question, Giuliano. As you know, it is not easy to gather such data, and most of these data were collected when I was analyzing the neighbors of the Glossa project. Marco Marco presented you before, and it is not easy. It is not easy because, as you can see, that the different data sources are really different. And if you are not an expert, or at least you don't work on this kind of problems for a couple of years, you don't know where to collect, where the data are, because very often data are open, but you don't know where they are. This is, for example, I think about the data of the I think about the data of the public transport. It is not easy to translate from a GTFS file the computation the computation of the quality of the public transport in infrastructure. I mean, it is possible to do this, but you have to investigate how to do this. In other cases, we employed proxies because there were no available data at the neighborhood level. For example, concerning the SDG 11.6, which relates to the level of pollution of a city. In the case of Cagliari, there are only 3 stations that gather data about this pollution level. So 3 stations is not enough, because the city is wide and it is not possible to extend the analysis of these 3 stations to the whole city. So employed a proxy. And the proxy was, okay, how many roads with a certain number of lanes are in a specific neighborhood? Because roads with a higher number of lanes means a higher number of cars. So we are aware that this is a proxy, but there are no other ways to extend this analysis at the neighborhood level otherwise.
Sure. Thank you very much, Francesco and Valeria, for their presentation. We have no more time to continue this discussion, but I hope that we have other opportunities. We will have, I'm sure we will have other opportunities to make discussion all together in this group and outside, also outside this conference. So we can proceed with the third contribution of this day. By Alice Barreca, Elena Fregonara, Giorgia Malavasi, and Diana Rolando. The title of the presentation is Energy Performance Certificate and Housing Transaction Prices, Empirical Evidence from Market Data Analysis. I leave the floor to Giorgia.
Yes, I'm trying to share the screen. Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes, Giorgia. Please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Giorgia Malavasi, and today I will show you our research developed with my colleagues Alice Barreca, Elena Fregonara, and Diana Rolando. And today I will walk you through motivation, methods, and results and implication of our research based on the housing market of Turin. Our study, why this study? Because the European Green Deal and also the recent Directive 2024 require, as you know, maybe substantial decarbonization efforts in the building sector. And so energy performance certificates have evolved from mere informal certificates or documents to tools and actual drivers for the market behavior. Additionally, there is the GAR, the Green Asset Ratio, that is now mandatory for the financial institutions. And so this is an important necessity also to align policies between policies and energy performance for monitoring the investment behavior in the real estate pricing. Our research has three main goals. Quantify the green premium and the brown discount in housing prices related to EPCs. Then integrate spatial econometric techniques also to account the neighborhood effects that were not included in our past studies on the EPCs. And then provide an evidence-based insight for policies, also based with, also aligned with ESG finance and urban strategies. Our case study is the city of Turin. We are involved in the real estate market, in the real estate observatory of Politecnico di Torino. And our dataset include more than 5,000 transactions, not just listing, from 2022 and 2023. And out of these, less than 2,000 transactions had a complete EPC data that were fundamental for this research. Our key variables include the transaction price, that was the dependent variable for the research, with a log transformed price, also to allowing a better model performance. And then we have obviously the EPC levels that are considered in a single way, so with 7 classes, and also grouped in 3 levels. In 2020, in 2021, and in 2025, so the present research, they are grouped in 4 levels. And then the apartment features like the maintenance status, or the cadastral class. In this study, we first cleaned the dataset by removing outliers also with but also by considering the interquartile range to remove all the outliers from the transaction prices. Then we applied the Morans index to detect the global spatial autocorrelation, and then the Lisa cluster map, like in the previous presentation, to visualize local clusters of similar property values. And then when we found the spatial dependence, we adopted the spatial error model to consider, to measure also the spatial dependency between the variables. The results of the present research, in our dataset, revealed that APCs have become increasingly prevalent in property advertisements, from 4% to 71% in the present research. And then, and this is very important also because we observed a growing price differentiation between the APC classes, so a green premium for the highest classes and a brown discount for the lowest classes. And the difference between the prices from A classes to G classes rated ONS up to 41%. So this is very important also to demonstrate that there is an increasing interest in APC's classes. Then we performed the Morans index to detect the global spatial autocorrelation and the Lisa maps to visualize clusters. And with this map, we can see that the Lisa cluster map reveals a spatial segmentation of the market in Turin. So we can see that there are high clusters that are in pink and that are concentrated in the central and semi-central neighborhoods of the city. Then we can see that there are low clusters in light blue, which are most found in the peripheral areas of the city and also in the former industrial district of the city. As you know, Turin has an industrial past, so this is very clear also in the map. And then we have some transactional areas with high-low or low-high clusters that are the zone that are under transformation. So they are all these cluster validate also the hypothesis that location and local services are key price drivers, but also we can see that also APCs has a great impact on the prices. Then we can see that the application of the spatial error model confirmed that we have a significant spatial dependence on the residuals. So we can see that lambda coefficient is very high, so it highlights a strong spatial dependence. And it is important also by considering the coefficient of the model that we have a brown discount, so a negative price impact on the classes F and G, and a positive impact for the highest classes. By comparing the different researches, past researches, and also this present research, we can see that in the past research there was a different data collection and also data sampling. You can see that there were listing most of the data sampling present listing. But then in 2025, we have transaction prices. There are transaction prices, so there is a strong, we can see that the impact is very strong and is higher in the last year. And so this is a confirm also that buyer behavior is increasingly energy aware. And so EPCs are more than just labels, but are also maybe shapers for the market. For the policy and market implication, we can see that our result can be important for urban planners, also because EPCs could target also renovation incentives and also zoning strategies. For financial institutions, it is evident that it's important to relate EPC data and also into GAR calculation. And also for the real estate platform, it is important because EPCs can be included in the automated pricing algorithms. And so for the conclusion, EPCs are significantly affected the transaction prices in the Turin housing market. And so it is important to see that that is tangible, that there is a green premium and a brown discount. And also it is evident that the spatial models are crucial. So housing markets are not random and location matters a lot. So it is important to include this in the model. And then future research can try to implement the model, also integrate mortgage conditions and housing profiles. And also we can try to expand to other cities our study and use the machine learning to improve the prediction accuracy and trying to propose some solutions for supporting transparent, sustainable housing markets across Europe. Okay, then my presentation is finished. Thank you for the attention. And if you want to follow us, there are some QR code. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giorgia, for your interesting presentation. Are there any questions from the public? I'm sorry, we are a bit late because we have to finish the presentation at 12 o'clock. So I will focus on presentation and try to limitate the questions. But just for one question, the presentation is it could be better. So if are there any questions?
I will make just a question maybe for Giorgia.
Okay. Hi, Eugenio.
I'm Eugenio. Congratulations for the impressive presentation. I wanted just you to reflect a bit more on how did you integrated in the analysis the temporal aspect of data. You considered a specific time span, but I wanted to know how did you get to a single result, because working with the temporal data always let's say even in displaying the results from that let's say put an issue on how to let's say to work with data, and also how to visualize let's say a final index that takes into account all the time span. So if you can tell me a bit more about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I will answer at first and then Alicia will integrate.
Yeah.
It is important to underline that our research for this stage, for our research, we have considered different data sampling, so they are separated. And then maybe in the future, that's a great suggestion, we can use some indicators or maybe other variables to consider also the spatial dependent, the temporal dependence. But I don't know if you want to.
Yes, in this case, we want somehow make a comparison between all the different researches done from 2014 to today. But sorry. The problem is that, of course, the first analysis were carried on with the OLS regression, and so we changed the model, but not too much. Of course, you are mentioned, I think you are talking about the temporary autocorrelation. So maybe we are planning to implement a model of geographical weight regression and temporally weight regressions. So it's future development and research that we are going on, because from last 2 years, we have a really good statistical based sample of data that in previous year was a problem. So now we have transaction and we have a amount of data that we can see there. So the temporal series is short now, but we will develop it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Congratulations for your work. And
Thank you so much.
now we can go on. I'm sorry we had to go fast because at 12 o'clock we have some problems. We had to take a flight. And the fourth presentation today is Eureka, exploring urban tourist environment through child-based activities. The presentation is by Laura Di Tommaso, Caterina Loffredo, Ludovica La Rocca, Simona Panaro, and Maria Cerreta. And I can leave the floor to Laura and Caterina for their speech. Thank you.
Okay, do you hear me? Do you see the screen?
Yes, Laura, please.
Okay, just see. Okay, good morning to everyone, and thank you to Professor Poli for organizing this interesting session. My name is Laura Di Tommaso, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Naples Federico II. I'm very glad to present this paper because it's written with my colleagues Loffredo and La Rocca under the coordination of the Professor Panaro and Professor Cerreta.
Sorry, Laura. Sorry. Sorry, we can hear, but we watching the last slide of your presentation. So you had to go to the first page, please.
Oh, sorry. It's similar to the first one, so. Okay, sorry. Just a short review of the presentation. I will do a short introduction to explain the premises of the research, and then I will be describing the issue of the paper wants to address, and next I will summarize the thematical exploration of the literature, and after I will describe the material methods. At least I can present the case study and the main results, and finally we will show the conclusions. This work starts from the intersection of two specific doctoral researches related to my colleague Caterina and myself. This paper summarized the validation of a methodology proposed in a previous one, where we explored the child role in tourist destinations. In particular, the paper underlined how participatory processes still often exclude children from the contribution and governance of the tourist places. We also pointed out the need for a semantic shift from child tourists to child inhabitants. And we also proposed the mutual learning as an approach that can resolve the complexity of the interaction between children and researchers. Finally, the paper asked to explore the ethical issues related to children involvement in tourist research. So the actual research focuses on three main questions. At first, the paper wants to study in depth the ethical framework through which the relationship between children and researchers can be justified. And additionally, the research attempts to reflect on which models and tools can be adopted to promote the participation of child inhabitants in decision-making processes. And finally, the paper wants to explore the multiple values of tourist places in the opinion of children. The interest about the literature, the interest in children's rights has grown since the adoption of the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child. We meet also other interesting concepts like the ongoing consent negotiation that has to be constantly reaffirmed, but also the importance of obtaining the double informed consent. Instead, someone suggests to consider child as co-researchers, and at least the ethical research involving children projects is interesting because it was developed as has developed an ethical framework that promotes reflexivity, rights, and relationships, the 3 R's, where reflexivity is defined like the ability of the researchers to critically reflect on the impact on the participants of the research. So this research focuses on the first co-exploration phase in a co-evaluation process through the development of implementation of the Eureka workshop. This activity is aimed at defining priority themes to start the evaluation process, and the qualitative data aims to be reinterpreted as shared values with the children, co-developing and not tracing territory narrative. This narrative will serve as a starting point for the next phases, like the co-design one and the co-evaluation one. In particular, focusing on the evolutionary evaluation approach, this process is characterized by the continuous adaptability and iterativity in data collection and feedback processes. Starting from a defined spatial and social context, the process is co-designed with people and proved through ongoing real learning cycles. This process features qualitative and quantitative data collection, as I said, and data is regularly shared through workshops and shared meetings. And finally, the cycle closes and reopens with the integration of the insights emerged into the decision-making process, making necessary adjustment and improvements. Eureka is structured into 6 phases. During the first one, objectives are co-identified to involve the most relevant stakeholders, and the school emerges as a central one. The second phase involved the exchange of skill and knowledge among all the participants, also between researchers and children. During the third one, the explication phase, children highlight the material and material elements of the territory, through which they attribute different types of meanings. And the fourth one, individual values are recontextualized within a collection dimension. And after, the priority topics are clustered based on the previously identified values. And finally, the last phase aims to share the results and critically reflect the issue that are emerged. To implement and verify the methodology, we choose the island Capri near Naples as the location to test our proposal. Capri is particularly interesting because she is a minor Italian island and also an inner area, having been included in the SNE perimeter since 2021. The Eureka activity was a 3-day workshop organized in Anacapri in February in an elementary school. The workshop was attended by 22 children, and the activity took place with the involvement of 2 teachers. On the first day, the concept of space was introduced to the participants. More generally, they were given the necessary tools and knowledge to understand the whole process. This included to develop an individual and then a collective definition of space. During the second day, we involved a shared reflection on of all island images and historical postcards. This analysis allowed the children to recognize existing stereotypes related to the image of Capri and its imagination. Afterward, we asked the children to draw a personal postcard of the island, trying to give a personal perception of it. And during the third day, we involved an exploratory walk that allowed participants to see the area with fresh eyes and notice elements that undermine well-being in public spaces. Through notes, recording, drawings, the children were able to document their observations, and among the issues that emerged we can find like the shade, the absence of shade and greenery, the prohibition against playing ball in public or riding bicycles, and also the extensive use of public space made by cafes. Eureka allow us to map the priority issues from the children's perspective, specifically concerning their living spaces. The co-researchers underline that the play dimension is often denied or absent. This is due to both existing limitations and the fact that the design is not really child-friendly, instead favoring interest activities. Secondly, the children express their participation of their perception of home as an asset at risk, being rare and precious. The information emerged through their drawings during the last day. Another element concerned the sea and nature that are perceived like luxury goods. These themes will allow for a deeper shared reflection that we'll do in the next step of the research. And this workshop underlined several important aspects. Specifically, adopting the evolutionary evaluation approach was essential because in some cases, certain steps were repeated or written off. And it's also crucial to emphasize the importance of employing engagement strategies, without which the experiment would not have materialized. Primarily, the involvement of the Anacapri municipality and also the school as the two institutions to convince the families and also the children to participate. We think that the activities were effective to the participation of no more than 15 children, and that we choose a large locations because the space is really important. Furthermore, it's essential to dedicate the right time to each activity because children need time. And regarding the tools, we noticed that postcards and drawings supported the development of children's reflections. Furthermore, space and its observation contribute to fostering critical perspective on it. Finally, we confirm the necessity to adopting language appropriate to the age of the co-researchers. And last, now, a new step of the research. Recently, we signed an agreement with the Anacapri municipality for its application to the Urban 95 Academy. Following the application, we were selected to participate in the international training program. So we are actually attending this course. And here we find some essential references. And thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Laura, for your presentation. Are there any questions from the public? So I want just thank you and Caterina to bring us to the important issues of soft data. How soft data can be included into evaluation is a very problematic and important questions. And so this work also to be very emotional and well structured could be a good starting point to integrate these type of values that are not very used into common evaluation or just with quantitative data and produce new knowledge through these soft issues. And in particular, it's very important also the ethical ambition of this of your project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Poli.
Okay, so we have no time for other questions, so we switch to the last presentation by Renata Boeri, Piero Zizzania, and Maria Cerreta. Ex-post evaluation framework for intersectional bottom-up regeneration process of public spaces, learning from a youth empowerment experience. The speech is by Renata Boeri. I can give you the floor, and thank you.
Thank you. So I will share my screen in a moment.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I guess now it's in presentation mode. Okay, so good morning, everyone.
Sorry, Renata.
Yes.
We cannot see your screen.
Let me try again.
Yes. Okay.
Now?
It's okay now.
Okay.
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to share this contribution, which is the result of a research journey that I carried out with Piero Zizzagna and Professor Maria Cerreta from the Department of Architecture Federico II of Naples, and which builds on my master thesis experience within the Urban Regeneration and Social Innovation program at UAV University of Venice. So this is a short overview about what our research is talking about, revolving around the idea that evaluation, far from being just a technical step at the end of a project, can be considered also a critical and transformative tool. Together, we constructed an ex-post evaluation of a participatory project in Brussels called Girls Made the City, an initiative which investigated youth empowerment and inclusive bottom-up urban regeneration through feminist practices, participatory design, and critical pedagogy. So in the speech, I'm going through like a small introduction of the theoretical foundation. I will explain you briefly the case study, and then I will follow with the evaluative process and some reflection that we made at the end of our research. I want to start by the two guiding questions that we consider both urgent and open. So the first one is why is it essential to address intersectionality and youth empowerment in urban regeneration? And second, how can evaluative practices support more inclusive and transformative urban process? To understand the reason why is it important to start from these two questions, we have to consider and understand the complexity of contemporary public space dynamics, as urban space is not a neutral backdrop, but is it highly politicized and uneven terrain shaped by policies, power, and generally daily life experiences. And contemporary cities are going through very rapid transformation that are often accompanied by deepening inequalities and exclusion processes. And this makes it even more urgent than ever to rethink who plans, who participates, and ultimately who the city is for. And we argue by analyzing the background for an evolutionary evaluation approach integrated with intersectionality as a way to make it even more visible the intersected system that shape urban experience. And in our analysis, we built an approach that tried to recognize the invisibility of certain groups, which in this case specifically are adolescent girls in both urban policy and space. So our work drawn on four main conceptual pillars. The first one is feminist urbanism, which critiques dominant planning paradigms that marginalize women's experiences and advocates for more inclusive and equitable urban environments. Second, intersectionality, which allow us to explore how overlapping identities like gender, age, race, and class produce unique form of marginalization. And it was very meaningful for understand better the exclusion of young women from public space. Third, special justice that focuses on fair distribution and access to urban resources, highlighting how decision-making can either perpetuate or either mitigate inequalities. And it is central in reimagining public space as inclusive and participatory, not just accessible. Last, the topic of participatory design, which democratize urban planning by opening up the planning process to those that are often excluded from it. So, to ground on this theoretical work, we turn to a concrete case. The project is called Girls Made the City, and it is an initiative that took place in Brussels. The initiative was launched in response to a municipal call focused on gender equality and youth participation in urban planning. And it is particularly meaningful in the context of young empowerment movement, as participants were not only invited to comment on public space, but to reimagine and intervene on it, becoming like really the co-designer and protagonist of this transformation. In more details, the initiative was launched in 2021 as part of the Equal Brussels program, and two local associations came together with a proposal for a participatory urban project that would place young women at the center of this special transportation that was supposed to happen in this neighborhood called Marolles. That is an area in Brussels marked by important structural marginality, but is also very rich in diversity and civic activity. The project specifically targeted adolescent girls from 14 to 18, inviting them to take part in the process of urban exploration. That means resignification and co-creation of public space. And it unfolded through 4 main phases, each with its own method and intention, where the girls were gradually brought to reflect over the space they lived and to critically analyze it, to make them able to co-design together with professionals some solution and proposal that were then presented to a final event. I won't be too long about the case study, but all of the initiatives were meant to support a powerful shift from private reflection to the space to a public and political presence. And it was crucial to establish a safe and welcoming environment and to focus especially on experimentation and agency rather than delivering perfect solutions for the space. And very important and worth to mention was also the final event, which was both a celebration for the project, but also a political statement, because it allowed the girls to present their work to the community, to the city officials, and to the local association. So, although the intervention were temporary, their effect went beyond, as girls with this project were helped to redefine their relationship with public space, moving from feeling like outsiders to becoming visible authors of special meaning. And this moment of recognition, empowerment, and authorship is not only symbolic, it is transformative, and it shows how cultural movement and dimension of space are as important and also physical one in shaping urban experience. So now that I very briefly explained the complexity of the project, I would like to explain a bit further the way that we worked. So to assess the program's performance, and given the nature of the project, which was very dynamic, participatory, and very important, it was already concluded by the time that we began our research. We needed an equally flexible and reflexive evaluation methodology. And this meant that we didn't apply a pre-existing model, but we reconstructed a situated evaluation approach grounded in the actual materials, processes, and relationship that shaped the initiative. So this brought us to build a case-based frameworks focused on what worked rather than whether the project met predefined outputs. As I mentioned already, our methodological foundation is the paradigm of evolutionary evaluation, which was particularly well suited for this kind of context. Unlike other evaluation approaches, evolutionary evaluation is based on the idea that programs change over time, and the evaluation should evolve along with them. It embraces complexity theory and allows for a very flexibility and learning through the process. Another important concept that guided our work is the idea of non-linearity, as in real life, especially in this kind of project that require participation. Transformation doesn't happen in a straight line. And we were especially attention to this kind of dimension. And that allowed us to trace how meaning was produced in the process, even when it didn't align the original design or expectation. So instead of asking, for example, did the process succeed? We ask what emerged and why. And lastly, even though our evaluation was conducted ex post, we try to adopt the same logic of what are usually called real-time learning cycles. This means that we work going back and forth between the case materials that we had, the voices of participants, and our theoretical framework. And each step helps us refine the next. So we treated the project as a learning ecosystem in which knowledge was produced collectively. This graphic shows a general view of the workflow that we followed, starting from the definition of our research question to the definition of the theoretical framework, then defining the evaluative framework, where our process followed 3 interrelated steps. So first came the analysis of the case study using interviews, project documents, and visual materials that we had access to. Second, we developed an evaluative lens grounded in the theoretical frameworks I presented earlier. And third, we worked to identify the mechanism of change at play in the project and to articulate evaluative criteria that could capture both its situated impacts and its broader evidence. So the first phase that consisted in the reconstruction of the case was essential for situating the project within its institutional and social spatial context. And our aim was not only to understand what the project did, what happened in the project, but how it operated within a broader ecology, including municipal agendas, grassroots networks, and the lived realities of the girls. And this approach especially was helpful to foreground the participant perspective, which were usually missing in formal documentation. The second phase consisted in building the evaluative lens, aligned with the theoretical foundation that I discussed earlier. Rather than using standard indication, we allowed the objectives of the project to emerge from the practice and the narratives we analyzed. And we realized that 3 key impact dimensions became central in the process. The first one was intersectionality, that reflected the diversity of the group and the plural modes of expression and interaction. Then came youth empowerment, that was made visible in the progression from guided activity to youth-led design and decision-making. And last, public space improvement, not just in physical terms, but in the symbolic resinification of the neighborhood. And this dimension helped us interpret the project as a site of transformation, where inclusion was not just about participation, which was very important, but especially about shifting power and agency. And final step was to distill the mechanism of change we observed into a set of evaluative criteria. And we ended up identifying 6 key dimensions. For example, the active engagement of diverse group, the collective resinification of public space, the durability of spatial reactivation, and so on. What is important is that these are not meant to be rigid metrics. They are very contextual and reflective and help us surface values, especially those that are let's say, more invisible in the traditional evaluation processes. And they also suggest potential for transferability, not by simply replicating this output, but by adopting principles and processes that guide us there, that seek to center equity and youth voices. So I also wanted to include the view of the entire project, of the entire graphic that I partially showed you so far, because I think it shows better how all the different phases we follow are interlaced. So to close, what did we learn from this case? A lot, but first we saw that small temporary intervention can also activate longer-term changes, both socially and spatially, especially when they are rooted in meaningful engagement. Second, the study confirms that feminist and intersectional practices offer not only a critique of dominant planning paradigms, but also can be a concrete tool for transformation. Third, we advocate for adaptive and co-constructed frameworks that evolve with the project and the people involved. And lastly, rather than exporting indicators, we suggest for a future similar project using generative criteria that are flexible enough to be tailored to each context, but they are grounded in the shared values. And that's it. Thank you for listening, and if you have any question.
Thank you. Thank you, Renata. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We should close the session, but we have time just for a 30-second questions, if any, as a comments or questions.
Okay.
Please, just 30 seconds, Georgia.
30 seconds. Many compliments for this presentation. I'm really interested in this topic. I also just presented a piece project about something similar. So what about repeat this project in Italy?
I would love to, actually, yeah. Yeah, because I think it was
so
really
consider us.
Of course. I'm in Torino, actually. So
okay. 30 seconds. Okay, then.
Okay.
Stop.
Thank you very much. I hope we have a new occasion to discuss about these important issues and very inspiring issues that emerged from this workshop ICCSA. So we can leave the session with very satisfying. It was a very satisfying ICCSA workshop, probably my last one. But I confide that the next year, for other occasions different from this type of context, we can meet all together and engage in a very interesting multidisciplinary, cross-cutting, and equity-based research. Thank you very much, and so bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.